Greetings fellow chefs and Jules mains, this is Anastasius Vocht, and in this guide I want to show you how to play one of my favorite items in the bazaar, the dragon steak. Dragon steak is a medium food item that was reworked in season 16. Its main feature is that it applies burn equal to its crit chance. It comes with a base crit chance of 25% at gold and 50% at diamond. On top of that, when heated, it provides a 50% crit chance boost to all other items on your board. A strong dragon steak board can apply around 500 to 1000 burn every 2 to 4 seconds. Dragon steak can be played either as your main carry item or as a support item that enables other builds through its crit chance buff. So why do I think this item is so awesome? I love making situational items work. One of the things that makes the bazaar so much fun is discovering hidden synergies and finding creative ways to build around overlooked items. Before season 16, dragon steak didn't have any inherent crit chance and couldn't grant crit chance to other items. To make it work, you had to find ways to stack absurd amounts of crit chance onto a single item. For example, before it was nerfed in season 13, high value caviar with the deadly enchantment was the most common way to enable dragon steak. Since then, however, caviar alone is not able to provide enough crit chance for dragon steak to apply the massive burn needed to consistently win late game PvP fights. In this guide, I'll show you the key synergies that make it work and explain how to get there. There are two main ways to play dragon steak. One is to stack large amounts of static crit chance through items such as caviar. The other is to scale crit chance rapidly during combat. Both approaches are viable and have their own strengths. The static crit approach lets you focus on speeding up the startup time and charge, while crit scaling boards pretty much outscale any defensive boards and are easier to assemble and require less high rolls. Let me introduce you to the items that are key to playing dragon steak successfully. If dragon steak is your main carry item, your board should almost always include a Santoku. Santoku effectively doubles all board-wide crit chance buffs applied to dragon steak. For example, a keen eye skill that grants 12% crit chance to all items effectively gives dragon steak 24%. A sushi boat trigger that grants 10% crit chance to all items effectively gives dragon steak 20%. The same principles applies to any other global crit chance source. You also don't need to invest much in Santoku, you just buy it and it does its thing immediately. While upgrading Santoku to gold or diamond is nice, it's not essential to the board. Although the crit scaling part of the item is useful, the passive crit shaving effect is what makes the item so powerful. Santoku can be found reliably in Isla shops starting on day 2. If you see one early, it is usually worth picking it up, as finding one later can be difficult. Sushi Boat is one of the core engines for crit scaling dragon steak boards. The goal is to play dragon steak as the only heated item. Every other item on the board should ideally be non-heated so that Sushi Boat receives as many charge triggers as possible. Because of this, you want to play fast items, ideally with multicast or other ways to activate rapidly during combat. Some excellent partners for Sushi Boat are Swan, Noodles, Diamond Eggs, Meat Tenderizer, Sorbet, Garlic and Pancakes.
Social situation? I'm not great at those.
Diamond Aperture Rifle, okay.
As a failed experiment. They teach you what doesn't work.
Loris Fortress with high multicast is also an excellent partner for Sushi Boat. Dragon Steak, Sushi Boat and Santoku already provide 6 tags to Loris Fortress by themselves, which means it starts with 7 multicast before considering the remaining item on your board. It charges Sushi Boat by a lot and provides good defense. The best enchantments for Sushi Boat are Shiny and Deadly. Stand Mixer represents the second major dragon steak scaling archetype, crit scaling through haste. When you have a stand mixer, the goal is to apply as many haste triggers to dragon steak as possible. Every haste trigger increases dragon steak's crit chance, which directly translates into more burn. Unlike Sushi Boat boards, stand mixer builds don't necessarily need Santoku. Since stand mixer specifically grants crit chance to hasted food items only, Santoku does not receive the crit buff from stand mixer. The most common way to get a lot of haste in Jules' items pool is Sarlik. At gold it can reliably target Dragonstake, making it one of the strongest partners for this archetype. On silver though, Rice Cooker is often the more reliable option. It may not scale as aggressively, but it allows the stand mixer engine to function consistently while you're still looking for better options. Another advantage of a stand mixer board is that due to the stand mixer's passive ability, you don't require crit scaling skills such as Trace of Fire or Static Acceleration to charge Sarlik. Alternative haste sources such as Bouncy Ball can work, but they are usually slower and less reliable than Sarlik based setups. The best enchantment you can get for stand mixer is Deadly. We already talked about Caviar earlier, but I want to explain how Caviar is played with Dragonstake. Caviar and board-wide crit chance sources in general represent the third way to build around Dragonstake. In this archetype you already start the fight with significant crit chance on Dragonstake, so it can already apply a lot of burn on the first use. As already said, Caviar was heavily nerfed a couple of seasons ago and is now much harder to make work consistently. You generally need to find Caviar very early, at latest by day 4, to have a realistic chance of reaching the required values. As a rough benchmark, you usually want Caviar to reach around 30 to 50 value before it becomes a serious Dragonstake enabler. At that point, the crit chance it provides is high enough for Dragonstake to start applying meaningful amounts of burn. Because Caviar alone is usually not enough to make Dragonstake powerful, you want to include other items and skills that provide board-wide crit chance buffs. If you are short on those, you need additional ways to increase Caviar's value outside of combat. Sadly, there are not many such effects available for Jules. Your best bet are off-class items from PvE encounters, such as Pitchfork and Truffles, as well as pick shops. The biggest advantage of a Caviar approach is efficiency. Since your crit chance comes from a single item, you don't need to dedicate multiple item slots to a scaling engine. The extra space can instead be used for defense, utility items, or additional ways to charge and accelerate Dragonstake. Alright, those are the main Dragonstake archetypes and the items that enable them. Once you've established one of those engines, the rest of the run is about filling in the gaps with support items that provide haste, cooldown reduction, survivability, or additional scaling. Now let's discuss some items that are not vital but good support for Dragonstake. Sarlik is one of the most important support items for crit scaling Dragonstake boards. It provides the haste triggers needed to repeatedly scale Dragonstake through stand mixer and other haste sources. If you're playing the stand mixer engine, Sarlik is often one of the key items you want to get. Serving Platter is a natural fit for Dragonstake boards because Dragonstake itself is guaranteed to crit and can provide large amounts of crit chance to the rest of your board. As a result, Serving Platter's passive ability triggers often and can significantly accelerate your entire setup. Birthday Cake is an excellent day 1 item that can naturally transition into a Dragonstake later in the run. Much like Dragonstake, it scales shield through crit chance, allowing you to pick up crit related synergies early without committing to a specific endgame board. Since it's also a good item into Spice Rack, it's a flexible line to play early. In the following section I want to discuss some items that are related to Dragonstake. At first glance, these items look like natural Dragonstake synergies. Some of them can work in specific situations, but most are less effective than they appear. Spatula is an early game option to scale crit chance. However, unless you find it enchanted with Deadly, it usually doesn't provide enough value to justify a board slot in the late game. The buffs that Uluknife received this season have made it less situational, but it is still a fairly niche option. The main issue with this item is that most Dragonstake boards primarily haste food items through effects such as Sarlik and Stand Mixer. To consistently haste tools, you typically need support items like Butter, Bouncy Ball or Oven Mitts, which often don't fit naturally into the build. That said, Uluknife can occasionally be worth considering if you are playing the Sushi Boat engine or if you find alternative haste sources, such as Bonfire or Smelling Salts and can't find a Stand Mixer. Salt is a powerful item on Spice Rack boards, but it is generally too slow for Dragonstake setups. While it can contribute additional scaling, most Dragonstake boards would rather spend those item slots on faster sources of crit chance, haste or cooldown reduction. Bouncy Ball provides a low cooldown source of untargeted haste. In theory this sounds useful, but Dragon Stake boards often contain enough items that the haste is spread too thinly. As a result, Dragon Stake is not hit consistently and Bouncy Ball struggles to charge itself efficiently. The item becomes stronger on boards with fewer items and may have potential in setups involving Laurel's Fortress and Sushi Boat, although I haven't tested it in the action myself. Let me also show you some non-Jules items that you can get through PvE encounters or other heroes shops that are powerful enablers for Dragon Stake. Bonfire can be obtained from Castaway Corsair on day 3 or from Vanessa shops. This is one of the strongest off-class items for Dragon Stake with Stand Mixer. Whenever you burn, Bonfire hastes an adjacent item. If you place Bonfire on the edge of your board, all of those haste triggers will land on the item right next to it. Combined with Stand Mixer, this allows Dragon Stake to gain enormous amounts of crit chance during combat. Bonfire is especially powerful alongside fast burn generators like Zalik, or medium burn items with multicast like Stew or Pizza, supported by Corkscrew. Goggles can be obtained from several PvE encounters or from stealth shops. This item converts haste triggers into crit chance for adjacent items. While the amount of crit it provides is not really impressive, it can contribute nice crit scaling on boards that generate large number of haste triggers. It is commonly paired with Zalik or Microwave. Petrock can be obtained from Castaway Corsair or from the Roaming Alley event on day 9 or from Vanessa shops. Since Jules boards rarely contain items with the friend tag, Petrock provides a respectable amount of flat crit chance to your entire board. Hunter's Journal can be obtained from the Lost Hero PvE encounter on day 9 or from Karnok shops. For Dragon Stake builds, this item is essentially a stronger version of Caviar. If you've already invested in stacking static crit chance, Hunter's Journal is one of the best items you can find. Smelling Salts converts slow effects into haste for the items to its left. This creates some interesting Dragon Stake setups. Items such as Pumpkin or Luau can generate large numbers of slow triggers, which can then be converted into haste. Combined with Stand Mixer or Ulu Knife, those haste triggers become another source of crit scaling for Dragon Stake. Just as Smelling Salts, Palanquin can only be obtained from mug shops and the dig site. It's a rare pickup, but an extremely powerful one. For Dragon Stake board, Palanquin functions almost like a Caviar and a Meat Tenderizer combined into a single item. The combination of crit support and acceleration makes it a very attractive option whenever you have the opportunity to pick it up. These are just examples. There are a lot more items that work very well for our boards. You just have to keep an eye open. And now that we've covered the items and engines that make Dragon Stake work, let's look at the most important skills to pick up throughout the run. First and most importantly, there are skills that grant board-wide crit chance to all items. Skills such as Keen Eye, Desperate Strike and Catch of the Day are among the strongest skills for Dragon Stake and are almost always worth taking. They become even more valuable when paired with Santoku because it effectively doubles crit chance gained by those skills. Apart from the board-wide crit buffing skills, there are skills that provide crit to a specific type of items. Those are Peaceful Eye, Inspirational Cooking, Gold Garnish, Critical Protector if your Dragon Stake is shield enchanted, Flanking Criticals and Flame Dancer, which is a monster skill from Tempest Bravo on day 3. These skills increase Dragon Stake's crit chance and therefore directly increase its burn output. Because Dragon Stake is a 5-second item on Diamond, your board significantly benefits from disruption, allowing your scaling engine to come online before the opponent's board reaches full strength. You need to target skills that provide slow or freeze on combat start, or after use of the first item such as Stunning Strike and Frostfire. Crit scaling skills such as Tracer Fire, Static Acceleration and Combat Medic are also always worth picking up. Tracer Fire and Static Acceleration provide a small crit chance increase per burn or haste trigger to all items on the board. At first glance, these skills may seem underwhelming because the crit chance gains per trigger appear small. In practice, however, they can scale surprisingly quickly. For example, a Diamond Static Acceleration grants 3% crit chance whenever an item is hasted. With some Toku next to Dragon Stake, that effectively becomes 6% crit chance on the stake itself. And if you have a Diamond Zalik, a single activation can translate into 18% crit chance for Dragon Stake. Since Zalik charges on crit scaling itself too, these numbers add up much faster than they initially appear. Combat Medic is especially good in combination with Sushi Boat as a scaling engine. Burn scaling skills like Living Flame, Searing Flames and Improvised Burn add more burn output to the Dragon Stake which is always welcome and can provide a noticeable boost to your damage output. Especially important in late game fights are start of combat effects. Immediately charging a Zalik or freeze trigger is very valuable. Look out for skills such as Valley Fever and Firestarter. These skills allow important skills such as Frost Fire or Tracer Fire to begin triggering immediately at the start of combat. There are a few nice defensive skills to increase your durability and to let your scaling engine and Dragon Stake breathe a bit. The best one would be Moth to a Flame, but also Hard Shell and Defense Grid can stall quite a bit. Last but not least, I want to mention acceleration skills. Late game PvP fights are often decided by which board reaches full speed first. Any form of cooldown reduction, charging or acceleration helps Dragon Stake activate sooner and scale faster, making these skills valuable additions to most Dragon Stake boards. Look out for skills like Quick Ignition, Quick Bite, Anything to Win, Wake Up Call and Give It a Whack. Now that we've covered the items and skills to pick up for a Dragon Stake board, let's talk about what enchantments you should pick for Dragon Stake. Enchantments are one of the biggest reasons to commit to Dragon Stake in the first place. Because of this, it is highly desirable to assemble your Dragon Stake board before level 10, ideally by day 8 or 9. In my experience, the best Dragon Stake enchantments are Shielded, Fiery, Mossy and Restorative in that order. Shielded is arguably the strongest enchantment available for Dragon Stake. Every activation generates shield equal to 5 times the burn applied. And since a good Dragon Stake can easily apply hundreds or even thousands of burn per activation, the amount of shield generated becomes absurd. A shielded Dragon Stake can simultaneously function as your primary damage dealer and your primary defense item.
Let's make this quick. I have something in
Bearable guy.
We're out to dethrone a king, not to squabble with nobodies.
Is that an elemental death charge? No. Submarine.
Next time,
Nice.
boys, less blunder, more plunder.
Fiery is the most aggressive option. Doubling the applied burn dramatically increases Dragon Stake's damage output and allows it to end fights much faster. Every additional point of crit becomes even more valuable because with Fiery each point of crit effectively translates into 4 points of burn.
Go ahead, underestimate me. It makes this more fun.
It's much quicker.
Defeat does not defeat me.
Mossy provides region equal to the burn applied. It can generate enormous amounts of sustain over the course of a fight. A Mossy Dragon Stake is able to defend against quite a lot of poison. Restorative enchantment heals equal to 5 times the burn output. Although it is weaker than Shielded or Mossy, the amount of healing generated can still be substantial and often provides enough sustain to survive long fights. Disregarding what enchantment you get offered, early Dragon Stake matters a lot. A Dragon Stake found after level 10 is at a significant disadvantage. So let's talk about your game plan. Dragon Stake is admittedly not a build that can be forced easily. Since it's a gold starting item, there will be many runs where you simply never find one. Because of that, I recommend playing the early game normally and keeping your options open rather than committing to Dragon Stake from the start. The most natural boards to pivot into Dragon Stake are Spice Rack boards and Sushi Boat boards. Both archetypes already use many of the items and skills that Dragon Stake wants, making the transition relatively smooth. On the other hand, there are a few lines that usually rule out a Dragon Stake pivot. The most notable examples are the Slow Burn line, the Lollipop line and the Fridge Swan line. These builds typically scale in different ways and have little reason to transition into Dragon Stake later. If you're already playing a Spice Rack board, Dragon Stake is often an excellent pickup. Even when it doesn't become your primary carry item, the crit chance support it provides to the rest of the board can easily justify a medium item slot. Ultimately, Dragon Stake is a build for players who enjoy finding unusual synergies and making overlooked items shine. It isn't the most consistent strategy in the bazaar, but when everything comes together, only few boards can match the combination of massive burn and defense of Dragon Stake. And that's pretty much everything I've learned playing many different Dragon Stake boards so far. Now I would like to know what you think of this item. Do you like the rework? If you think I missed the synergy, found a stronger board, or discovered a line that I haven't tested yet, let me know in the comments. I stream almost every day on Twitch at twitch.tv/Anastasiusvogt. Thanks for watching and good luck cooking!